The year is 1453. A new power is rising in the east. A young sultan sits upon the Ottoman throne. His name is Mehmed II. He is just 21 years old, but he burns with an ambition that honestly belies his youth. His gaze is fixed on one prize, one city, a jewel set between two continents, Constantinople. For over 1,000 years, it has been the heart of an empire, the Christian capital of the East. Mehmed sees it not just as a city, but as a symbol. To conquer it is, in his mind, to conquer the world. It is his destiny, his obsession. Mehmed is a man of contradictions, a scholar who speaks multiple languages, a poet with a ruthless heart, a military genius driven by an ancient prophecy. He believes he is the one destined to fulfill it, the one to finally bring the city under the banner of Islam. He has studied the failed sieges of the past. He knows the mistakes his predecessors made, and he will not repeat them. This time, there will be no retreat. There will be no negotiation. There will only be victory or death. He amasses a force unlike any seen before. From every corner of his expanding empire, soldiers march. Elite janissaries, the Sultan's personal guard, form the core of his army. Alongside them come the irregular Bashi bazooks, fierce warriors drawn by the promise of plunder. Cavalry, infantry, engineers converge on the plains outside the city. The numbers are staggering, a tide of steel and faith ready to crash against ancient stone walls. He rallies his men with promises of glory. He tells them of the riches that lie within the city's walls. He speaks of the honor of conquering the last bastion of the Roman Empire. The ground trembles under the weight of tens of thousands of marching feet. An army of unprecedented scale is gathering. All of them have their eyes fixed on the same target, Constantinople. Constantinople, the queen of cities. For a millennium, it has stood as a beacon of civilization. The capital of the Byzantine Empire, the last echo of ancient Rome. Its libraries held the knowledge of the ancient world. Its churches were marvels of architecture and faith. But those days of glory are long gone. The empire has been shrinking for centuries. Now it is little more than the city itself. The Byzantine emperor is Constantine XI Palaiologos. He is a brave and noble leader carrying the name of the city's founder. He knows the impossible odds he faces. His domains are just the city, a few scattered islands, and a small part of Greece. He is surrounded by the vast and hostile Ottoman Empire. He has pleaded for help from the West, from the Pope in Rome, from the kingdoms of Europe. But help is slow to come, if it comes at all. The city's population has dwindled. Where once 1 million people lived, now only 50,000 remain. The people live in the shadow of their own magnificent history. Yet they are resilient. They are proud. They are the Romans. They will not surrender their home without a fight. They place their faith in God and in their walls, the legendary Theodosian walls, which have protected them for 1,000 years. A mere 7,000 defenders against a force more than 10 times their size. They are a mix of Byzantine soldiers, citizen militia, and a handful of foreign volunteers. They are led by brave commanders like the Genoese soldier of fortune, Giovanni Giustiniani Longo. They are outnumbered. They are outgunned. But they are defending their homes, their families, and 1,000 years of history. The first days of April 1453, the horizon to the west darkens. It is not a storm cloud, it is the dust kicked up by an advancing army. The Ottoman host arrives before the walls of Constantinople. An endless sea of tents stretches for miles across the plains. The sound of their war drums is a constant rhythmic threat. a promise of the violence to come. Mehmed II rides at the head of his army. He establishes his camp directly opposite the central gate, the Gate of St. Romanus. He has a plan. He will systematically crush the city's defences. He has brought with him something new: giant cannons. Bronze monsters capable of hurling massive stone balls that can shatter even the strongest fortifications. They watch as the enormous cannons are hauled into position, each one a behemoth requiring teams of oxen. The defenders on the ramparts watch in grim silence. Fear mixes with defiance. A tense quiet settles over the two camps, the calm before the storm. Outside, the Sultan gives the order. The cannons are loaded, the fuses are lit. The siege of Constantinople has begun. A triple line of defence stretching for 6 kilometres. They were an engineering marvel. 23 previous sieges had been broken against this formidable barrier. This space, called the Peribolos, gave the defenders room to manoeuvre and to counter-attack, luring the enemy deeper into a carefully constructed trap of stone and death. The final and most imposing barrier was the inner wall, a colossal structure soaring 12 meters into the sky. It was reinforced by nearly 100 massive towers. But now they would face their greatest test. On April 6th, 1453, the tense quiet was shattered. On the Sultan's command, the great Ottoman cannons opened fire. The stone that had defied armies for 1,000 years shuddered and cracked. Towers that had seemed eternal crumbled. The bombardment had begun. It would not stop for 53 days. Every day, cannons destroyed. Every night, defenders rebuilt, waiting for dawn. The Byzantines had a few small cannons of their own. They fired back, but largely in vain. While the cannons hammered the land walls, Sultan Mehmed turned his attention to the sea. The entrance to this vital waterway was protected by a colossal iron chain. In mid-April, the Ottoman fleet, numbering over 100 ships, advanced towards the harbour entrance. The battle for the chain was fierce and chaotic. The Christian crews fought back with skill and desperation, using Greek fire, the legendary Byzantine incendiary weapon, to set the enemy ships ablaze. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Ottomans were repulsed. The chain held firm. It was a stunning victory for the defenders, a much-needed boost to their flagging morale. On the morning of April 20th, a cry went up from the watchtowers. Ships were spotted on the horizon. What followed was a dramatic naval battle fought in full view of the city. The 4 Christian ships drew together, forming a tight, floating fortress. Just as it seemed the defenders' ships would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the wind, which had died down, suddenly picked up. Their tall ships began to move, pushing through the Ottoman lines. The chain was lowered to let them in. For the people of Constantinople, it was a miracle, but it would be the last help they would ever receive. The victory of the 4 ships was a public humiliation for Sultan Mehmed. His admiral, Baltoglu, was brought before him in disgrace. If his ships could not sail past the chain, then they would not sail at all. The solution was to bypass it completely. Mehmed conceived a plan to transport a portion of his fleet overland. He would drag them over a hill and relaunch them directly into the harbour. Under the cover of darkness and a constant distracting bombardment of the land walls, one of the most incredible engineering projects in military history began to take shape. With immense effort, they pulled the vessels out of the waters of the Bosphorus. A fleet of dozens of ships appeared to be sailing over the crest of the hill. By dawn, the impossible had been achieved. The defenders of Constantinople awoke to a sight of utter disbelief and horror. Over 70 Ottoman ships now floated in the Golden Horn. The psychological impact was devastating. The sea walls, previously thought safe and manned by only a skeleton force, were now a new, vulnerable front line. The final act of the tragedy was now set. As the siege dragged into its 7th week, a deep sense of despair settled over the city. An ancient prophecy said the city would fall when the moon gave no light. A thick, unseasonable fog descended upon the city. When it lifted, Ottoman witnesses claimed a strange light flickered around the dome of Hagia Sophia. For the Byzantines, it meant God had deserted them. On May 28th, an unnerving silence fell over the battlefield. Sultan Mehmed was preparing his final grand assault. That evening, a solemn and heartbreaking ceremony took place within the city. Catholic Christians, Orthodox Christians put aside their differences and prayed together. The emperor gave a final moving speech. He did not offer false hope. He spoke of honor, of sacrifice, and of dying for their faith and their home. After the service, the defenders returned to their posts for the last time. The emperor rode to the breach at the gate of St. Romanus to take his final stand. Just after 1 in the morning on Tuesday, May 29th, 1453, the silence was shattered. The final assault began. The first to be sent forward were the Bashi bazouks, the irregulars. They were cannon fodder, sent to exhaust the defenders. As the first wave of Bashi bazouks fell back, the second wave surged forward. They focused their assault on the weakest section of the wall, the breach near the gate of St. Romanus. It was at this critical moment that disaster struck. Giovanni Giustiniani, the heart and soul of the defence, was gravely wounded. Seeing the confusion, the Sultan unleashed his final, ultimate weapon, the Janissaries. They charged towards the breach where Giustiniani had just fallen. At the same time, another small group of Ottomans discovered an unlocked postern gate. They rushed through it, raised the Ottoman banner on a nearby tower, and began attacking the defenders from behind. Emperor Constantine XI, seeing that all was lost, threw off his imperial regalia. He was last seen plunging into the thick of the fighting, his sword flashing. With his death, the final breach was complete. The Ottoman tide poured into Constantinople. The 1,000-year empire had fallen. Thousands fled to the Hagia Sophia. The miracle never came. They shattered the great doors with axes. They stormed inside. On the afternoon of the first day, Sultan Mehmed II made his triumphal entry into the conquered city. He declared that the great cathedral would be converted into a mosque. The sound echoed through the ancient Christian space, a powerful declaration that the city of Constantine was now a city of Islam. The city began its slow transformation. The name Constantinople, while still used for centuries, gradually gave way to a new name, Istanbul. The fall of Constantinople sent a shockwave across Europe. This need for a new path to the riches of the Orient spurred on the age of discovery. The light of Byzantium did not go out, it was carried west. The mighty Theodosian walls, though scarred and broken, still stand as silent witnesses to the epic struggle that took place there. The siege of 1453 was not just an end, but also a beginning. A battle that forever changed the course of history and left an indelible mark on the memory of the world. The day Constantinople fell.